everyone. I am so sorry that I am posting this video late. Something happened with YouTube and it's been so slow to upload videos, like so unbelievably slow. And I had to go somewhere, so unfortunately I wasn't able to post this video, but now I am posting it now. And yeah, so without further ado, let me discuss this movie. And before you get all of your pitchforks and your torches and whatever else you would like to figuratively throw at me, let me discuss why I think the movie Frozen in particular is overrated as a film. And not just as a Disney film, I just think as a film in general, as well as, you could say, too, compared to other Disney films. Now, the thing is this film came out really recently, and there's just been a lot of hype for this film, like unbelievable. Just everybody's referencing the songs. Everybody is talking about the characters. Everybody's just throwing Frozen and out there and saying, yeah, this has revolutionized Disney, and this has made Disney now back on top again, and this is the big win for Disney, because it was the actual film that won them I think it was both the Golden Globe and the Oscar. So again, there is a lot of praise with this film. Unfortunately for me, after viewing the film actually only once, it didn't make me want to really watch it again. I just thought that it was okay. I didn't think it was that strong of a film compared to a lot of other Disney films and a lot of other animated films. I just thought this one was just okay. And I think it is just way too overhyped for what it is. Now let me go into explaining why I think this is, and tell you a little bit of my reasoning behind why I feel that it's really borrowing from a lot of other Disney films and borrowing a lot from other films in general, and why I don't think it comes off as strong. Now, the big hype for this movie, the first and foremost, I'd say, big hype with this movie, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's supposed to emphasize the importance of family. Like, we haven't seen that in a Disney film before. But this Disney film wants to emphasize the relationship and bond between sisters. And they really seem to hype this up. Like, this is this is so revolutionary. Oh, we have not seen this before between siblings, you know? Disney's never really done this before, and this is what makes this film so unique. Sorry, no. Lilo and Stitch, you know, her and her sister. Yeah, we've seen it before. This isn't something new and revolutionary. And the whole concept of siblings bonding and families bonding in animated films, that's been seen before. This is nothing new. This is nothing revolutionary. This is a very ingrained concept into children's films. And why is that? Because children, in particular, develop bonds with their family. So therefore, that's why you would see them in a lot of animated films. And to me, this was the really big hype for this movie in particular, just because they were sisters. And to me, that doesn't make your film groundbreaking. What makes your film groundbreaking is how you execute that relationship. And I feel that Frozen did not do a very good job in establishing Anna and Elsa's relationship. And why is that? Well, they only get a couple of scenes together where they're actually talking with each other. Literally, if you go through this movie, they only have really 2 scenes, or technically maybe 3 if you count the ending, but really only 3 scenes, and they're so short too that you really don't get the sense of the relationship. Like, you really do not. I mean, you do get a sense of the struggles that they have to go through as sort of a family, because again, the parents die, shock, in a Disney movie, really early on, but again, you don't really see them bond, you don't really see them try to go through the struggles that they're going through. You don't really see them develop themselves. You really don't, and you just have this one character, Elsa, who's really not that active. She really doesn't do much throughout the entire story except run away and build a castle. That's what she does in this movie. And she lets her powers control her, and I guess again you could say that her powers, she does stuff with her powers and things like that. But really that's all that she does as a character, like... okay. So she's not the most, I guess, active character, I'd say, in the movie. Really, that belongs to the other sister, Anna. I mean, they're good characters for a kids' film. It's just the relationship is just not really there. I mean, it's there, but it's not fully developed. I think the movie could have done a way better job at developing this relationship. There should have been, I think, a lot more scenes of them where they're actually together and talking, and I think there should have been a lot more in regards to this relationship, because that's what they wanted to make the centerpiece of this movie to be about. And again, this really plays a particular role in the plot, because ultimately Anna ends up sacrificing herself for her sister. And the problem is with that is I don't really know why she loves her sister. Like, I'm not invested in the relationship when I don't really know, like, I don't really have a connection with the characters and their relationship. And I think that's just so important when you're trying to make a movie about these characters, is you need to develop this relationship. You need to incorporate a lot of elements with it. Lilo and Stitch, her sister and Lilo, is a better developed relationship, way better than Frozen. I mean, there's more scenes of them together. You see their trials and tribulations. They're actually talking to each other. It's very ingrained within the film. And then you feel the relationship when ultimately Lilo gets captured, and you feel sorry for her sister. And in this, it's completely just the relationship is just not developed well. And if you want to make a film where ultimately someone sacrifices themselves for somebody, you need to make the audience believe in the relationship. And to be honest, I really didn't believe in the relationship. I didn't feel like it was really developed all that well. And it really deterred me in getting invested into the movie. And again, I think the movie tries to, but there should have been way more screen time and way more development with their characters. So when the tragedy does happen, you do feel like that they have a bond. You really do feel like there's something going on. Once Lilo gets captured, again, her sister, I think her name is Nani, feels it, and because they've had all of this time to develop as characters, because again, Lilo doesn't get captured until like the ending sort of the film. With Frozen, Elsa's already gone. She's already out of the picture, and they're pretty much separated through the entire film. So this is really hard when you want to recreate a relationship dynamic. It's just, I just think the whole X-Men approach that they tried to do with Elsa's character, and again, it is an X-Men approach. We've seen this time and time again, where one character feels different, one character, goes away because they feel like they're a burden to society. We've seen this time and time and time again within like superhero movies, with other movies where people are dealing with the same concept of feeling different and feeling an outcast and all that. In other Disney films, we've seen this time and time again. And to be honest, I really didn't feel any different. You know, I felt more for Quasimodo, you know, being different, or for other Disney characters being different than really Elsa, to be honest. And I just don't think her whole power thing was really developed all that well, too. You know, you could have gotten a lot more scenes of the parents trying to deal with her and trying to figure out what exactly is wrong and how they can ultimately mitigate the powers. And I will say, the parents in this movie are so stupid. They are the worst parents I've ever seen, and one of the worst parents I've seen in a Disney film. They are just so bad at parenting, like, especially when the troll even tells them, like, hey, fear is what drives these powers. Let's lock her up, you know, and yeah, and then that'll solve the problem. It's like, no, that's not gonna solve the problem, you know. Fear is what's gonna really trigger these powers, you know. And aren't you gonna make her feel more afraid and more of a burden to society if you push her inside a corner? You know, it's just horrible parenting, like just horrible parenting. And I just wanted to just slap these parents across the face when I was watching the movie. I'm just like, you're horrible parents. I'm sorry, but you're bad. You're just bad at parenting. So that was just, I just felt like that could have been executed just a whole lot better, and instead they tried to go for this kind of spectacle aspect with Elsa's powers, and I think, okay, those scenes could have been used, you know, for actually, you know, having more development with her character and more with Anna, especially when you want to create this kind of powerful relationship and you want me to be invested at the end of the movie. So I think that was really, really a major issue, especially when people hype up the fact that, oh, they're sisters. Yeah, they're sisters. Okay, I get that. But can they have a little bit more of a dynamic relationship? Can we actually get to know them a little bit more? Can they actually just talk with each other? Can we figure out what's going on? You know? And again, this whole kind of secrecy thing, I think, really damages the plot, again, with having Elsa's powers being revealed, like, in the beginning of the movie, I think was just a really bad writing choice, because, again, you don't get any development between the characters. She goes off and she's gone throughout the majority of the movie. So I think that's just was so important to have if you really wanted to make it about these sisters, and you wanted to make it an act of true love, you know, for family. Okay, you want to make it an act of true love for family? Well, why don't you develop it a little bit more? And it's so ridiculous, too, because this movie tries to emphasize, like, oh, how realistic it is. Because you know how Anna in the beginning falls for this prince who, guess what, turns out to be evil, but we'll get to him later. Oh, that was another part that bothered me about this movie. But what bothered me in particular, too, was just how, you know, how they try to sort of demonize the whole, like, love at first sight BS. And we know it, okay? You know, we've seen this. You don't need to re-emphasize the point. We know that love at first sight is not that realistic. We know this. Like, these are fairy tales. They're not supposed to be real. Like, I just don't get why Disney has to, you know, bend over for, like, these really, like, I don't know, like, these just really pro-feminist women, and just bow to them every time of, yes, we know this is not realistic, yeah, okay, let's put in more realism now, let's put in more realism. You know, you don't need to do that. Like, we know as an audience already. You don't need to pander to this one crowd that wants you to keep re-emphasizing the point. Like, we know love at first sight is not practical. That's why these fairy tales are called fairy tales, because they're not realistic, and they don't really make sense that often. You know that, right? It's just a fantasy. So And this movie tries to claim realism, but then at the same time, they don't really develop Anna and Elsa's character. And they go, yeah, we should totally root for your guys' relationship, because your relationship is between sisters. And I think that's the thing that people got appealed from, was the fact that the relationship and the true love aspect was for sisters and not for a romantic love. And that's why everybody was so riled up and happy about this. And that's fine, but you don't need to, like, go and demonize one kind of love and then, you know, completely do the same thing, pretty much, because, again, you don't really develop these characters all that well, and make them seem like, and make them seem like a fantasy, and then make us root for them, because they're sisters. And I think that's the whole movie's excuse, is we're different because they're sisters. And it's like, no, you're not, movie. You're not different because they're sisters. You're different in how you execute the relationship. Movie. If you want to be realistic. Which is definitely what they're going for, because a lot of Disney films, as we've seen through the 90s and onward, have been generated to being a little bit more realistic with the characters. Because, again, there was a whole backlash on fairy tales and how they're not realistic and that they increase children's over expectations in life and blah, blah, blah. And I don't think that's true. I just think that's a bunch of hogwash. And I think it's fine if fairy tales go for a more realistic approach. That's totally fine. And I don't mind if they just go for fantasy. But you need to kind of figure out which one you want to kind of go for. Or if you want to blend them together, like blend them together well, which is what Tangled did, I think, really well, is again, it updated it, and they made Finn and Rapunzel's relationship more developed, but maybe not as realistic as maybe some other films when it comes to that. But with Anna and Elsa's relationship, I almost feel like it's a fairy tale sort of love, because I don't really see the development with their relationship. You know, Anna she's just 100% behind her sister, 100% of the time. Like, no questioning of her motivations or anything, just, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do whatever it takes for my sister because I love her and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, why do you love her? Well, what's the reasonings behind you going after somebody like this? It just feels like it's setting up the same kind of formula with, you know, a prince and him going off and saving another person. Like, well, why do you want to go off and save this person? Well, why do you want to, you know, do this? Like, you need to have reasonings behind, you know, caring about this person. Like, you can't just put a relationship together and say they're sisters and say, yeah, we're supposed to root for them because they're sisters. You root for a character and a character's relationship with someone based upon the development, if you want to go for realism, which is what this movie was trying to do, and I don't think it did a good job, because the relationship between Anna and Elsa, I don't think, was developed all that well and executed that well. So that's kind of what bothered me a little bit, is that they're trying to claim realism and trying to be more realistic. Oh, you can't just marry someone you just met. Yeah, well, you can't have a relationship with your sister when you've only had maybe 2 scenes together before you go off and then the other princess tries to save you throughout the entire movie. You just can't, you know, you just can't do it. So that's, I think, an issue that I had with this movie, was just the fact that the relationships, I don't think, were developed that well, especially between the sisters. Also, the relationship between Anna and Kristoff isn't really developed all that well, and you don't really feel like they have chemistry. At least I didn't feel like that they had really genuine chemistry, really. And I didn't think like that they really clicked. I felt like that they were more like friends, if anything. I didn't feel like that there was any romance in there, and when they tried to put in romance, oh my gosh, the songs, and I'll get to the songs later, it's just, I think, just bad and just not that good. So that was, I think, a major issue, is just the development of the main characters was just not executed all that well. Now, the songs is another thing I want to talk about. These songs, I think, are okay. And by okay, I mean only okay. Like, Let It Go, okay song. For the First Time in Forever, good song. All the other songs, forgettable. Did not remember anything. I remember, though, the concepts of maybe some of the songs. In particular with the snowman, like, that was a really cute concept of the snowman wanting to, Olaf wanting to be, want to live in summer. That was really cute. That was a really good idea. But the song is just not memorable at all. And the songs are just relatively short, and they don't feel like songs. They just feel like they just don't feel like the songs that you would see in a Disney film. And again, Let It Go, I don't feel resembles anything like a Disney song. It's just a Broadway song. It's like a Broadway ballad. It doesn't sound like unique. It doesn't really sound to me like anything that we haven't seen on Broadway, It just really sounds like something out of Wicked. It does not sound like something that comes out of Disney. Just doesn't. And I think that's what really threw me off. I'm just thinking, like, really? This is really what they were going for? And some of the background music, though, is nice, like in the beginning where they have, like, this Nordish kind of feel that they set up, but just the songs, though, are just not memorable, at least in my opinion. And I think Let It Go, in particular, has just been so overhyped. It's like that Celine Dion song. Like, it just gets played over and over again. Oh, it just bothers me. And I think even the Nostalgia Critic emphasized that. The only song that I think really emphasized a Disney-like song and was trying to bring back that, fantasy energy was For the First Time in Forever. I mean, that song really sounds like a legitimate Disney song. And I still thought it was still memorable. I mean, yeah, it did sound a little bit Broadway, but it sounded a little bit more like something that would come out of Disney. And it didn't sound like something that was, from a Broadway musical. And I think that was a huge issue for me in particular, was the songs, because when they would come up, they would just kind of be there, and you wonder, yeah, does this person really need to sing about this? And even then, there's not really a whole lot of energy. There's not a whole lot of fun. I mean, this is just not... Just the songs, they're just not that great. And then they make this kind of, hinty love song between Anna and Kristoff, and it's all kind of just done for show, and it's just comedic, and it's like unemotional, and just kind of there, and it just wasn't good. I mean, to me, it just sounded off. Sometimes the sequences were cute, in particular, I think, with the snowman, because of the whole concept of what he wants in the film, which is cute. But beyond that, it's just so average. It's just not that great. And I don't think it was executed that well. So, I guess that would be just my issue with the songs. It's just that they're just not memorable. They're kind of bland. And they sound like things that I've seen before, and they don't feel like it's trying to push the envelope for Disney. And when they could have, really tried to go in with the culture, because I feel like a lot of other Disney films, they really tried to go in with the culture, like Lilo and Stitch with Hawaii, with Mulan, and with their songs, this making it sound more Chinese, and for here I didn't feel like there was any. The only Nordish kind of elements that were in there were just kind of like the background music that would come in sort of in the beginning, and then that was all you got, and then the rest was just Broadway and, show tuney, but not as good as I think a lot of other Disney movies or other musical animated films. So yeah, the songs were just not as good, in my opinion. And then this is the other thing, too. It tries to push the idea, I think, that this movie is unique. And that it's trying to say something new, and it's trying to bring something new to the table. And to be honest, I don't think this film is bringing anything new to the table in regards to Disney. Everything that's been seen in this film has been done before in other Disney films, and it tries to act like it's so much better, it's so much more well executed. And I really just don't think that that's true. I mean, yeah, you can say whatever you want about the other Disney films and the certain cliches that are within them, but this movie tries to feel like it's on a higher pedestal. And I think it only tries to do that just because we have a sister-sister relationship, which is not as common as what we see in a lot of other Disney films. And I think that's the only thing it was trying to go for. And when you have that for your movie as trying to be unique, I just don't think that works, because ultimately it's not about the relationship. It's how you execute the relationship that matters, depending on what kind of feel you're going for. If you're going for a more realistic kind of world and a more realistic kind of relationship, you need to develop the characters. So, again, I think this movie tried to be unique by putting in things that we've seen before, but still maybe adding something that we don't see that often in Disney. Again, often, and claiming that it's unique. And I just don't think that that's relevant, and that makes the film somehow better. So, the last thing that I wanted to discuss in particular is the villain. Now, this villain is one of the aspects that did really bother me in this movie. The villain is basically a uninteresting version of Gaston. Basically, that's all he has to offer to the table. This villain, all he wants is the kingdom. I haven't seen that before. Just power. And he ultimately tricks Anna into believing that, he loves her, and then he ultimately says, ha, psych, I don't. He does a complete 180, and he's not interesting. And the thing is not only is he uninteresting, there's no point to having this villain in this movie. And the reason why I say there's no point in having this villain in this movie is because we already do have a villain in this movie. And what is that villain, you might say? Elsa's powers. Not her powers in per se, just the bad aspects of her powers. Because again, some of her powers are very threatening, and again, you see that too, that they are a legitimate threat to people. They almost killed some people. I'm not kidding you, because the spikes of the ice, those can be really threatening, and that should have been really ultimately the villain, was the part of her powers that she can't control. And we do see this within the climax, too, how it's going completely crazy and her powers are just messing with everything. That could have been the villain of your movie. And all you had to do was have Elsa or Anna try to help her somehow, and maybe that ultimately, kills her or something, and then Elsa maybe could have helped by maybe saving her, because again, Anna is the only active character really in this movie. And what I mean by active is that she does the most stuff. She actually goes out and does things and tries to solve a problem. And the problem with Elsa is I don't think she tries to solve a problem. And she tries to figure out means to control her powers. She just feels like a hopeless victim throughout the entire movie. They don't treat Elsa as a really independent character. They make her a victim of her powers. They make her a problem and someone to be feared for and feel sorry for. They don't make her, I think, an independent character. I don't think she's that independent. Just because you make a castle and you go away and hide from your problems, that doesn't make you an independent character. That makes you pretty much the opposite of an independent character. So, that was really my issue with um with that aspect. Is just that they don't treat her like an independent character. And the villain in this movie really bothered me because on top of that, he's the one that really ultimately tries to hurt Elsa. He's the ultimate one that we should be mad at. He's the one that's caused all the problems, and really the only thing is he's sort of a side plot as a villain, just like, oh yeah, by the way, I want your kingdom, ha 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 ha. And he's not interesting, he's not engaging, he completely does a 180, because at first he seems like the nice guy, and then he really turns out not to be the nice guy. And no crap, I mean, we saw this coming. I mean, you know, it's very kind of predictable. At least in my opinion, I thought it was pretty predictable. His motivation is, again, weak. And the thing is he doesn't have any dimensions to him. He's just a really boring version of Gaston. Like, he lacks the charisma, he lacks the ability to really be at the forefront of the movie, because he's not really the forefront as a villain. He's just treated as some side note. And Disney is known for their villains and really trying to make them interesting and unique. And this guy was just a side villain at the most. And even then, the thing that bothers me too is that them making him a villain, because again, you don't need to make this guy a villain. You don't need to make this guy a bad guy. You didn't need to do it, movie. You just didn't need to do it. There was no point in making him a bad guy, because ultimately, who's the real problem here? Not Elsa in particular, but her powers are the problem. Like, that was the reason that she ran away. You don't need to add in this whole other side plot with this guy that's completely one-dimensional and is just some evil, handsome prince. You don't need to do it, movie. And, again, I think it was a way of, again, trying to insult the other Disney films and the other more fantasy-oriented films by saying, you know, you are all so unupdated, and you're so old and traditional, and yeah, look at this guy, you know, if we made a prince a jerk, that makes our movie unique. And I'm like, no, movie, it's how you execute the villain that makes you unique, movie. And you did not execute this villain well. Not at all. This villain was a waste of animation. I'm sorry, he was a complete waste of animation. You could have made him a side character and just made him some prince that maybe has money, and he's maybe likable in certain ways, but maybe ultimately Anna is like, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't think we're compatible enough, or something like that. You didn't need to make him a full-out jerk. You didn't need to make him an evil guy, movie. And all I think it was intended to do was just rile that female crowd of, yeah, woo, we have a jerk in this movie. This movie so speaks to me because I've been with a jerk and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, movie, no, you didn't need to have this villain in this movie. There was no point. It was basically like, he's pretty much the same as the villain in Titanic. You know, that mustache twirling kind of, you know, suave, you know, new, one-dimensional villain. Like, they don't give him any sort of sympathy or interesting characteristics at all. So he was a complete waste, and he didn't need to even be in this movie. Like, you didn't even need to have this guy in this movie. You could have had him as, like, a support character, and, you know, could have been, like, the guy that maybe Anna likes. And again, you could have made that whole dynamic work. The thing is you didn't need to make him a full-out villain, movie. You only did that to rile up a crowd, and to be honest, I don't think that was a good idea. I think that was just a really poor choice on Disney's part. A really, really poor writing choice. And he didn't need to be in there. Like, you could take him out of the movie and nothing would have changed. You know, nothing would have been better or worse. He's only used as a plot device to ultimately, you know, harm Elsa. And you didn't need that. You know, you could have had Elsa's, you know, maybe the powers are killing her, and her sister could have tried to, you know, bring something in to help her, and then maybe in the process the powers ultimately, you know, just destroy her or harm her. But then she's saved because, you know, she did an act of true love or something. You didn't need to have this guy in here, movie. This was just a cheap ploy so you could use him as a plot device and use it to execute it in the way that you wanted to, movie. And I'm sorry, this villain was just a complete waste. Complete waste of animation. Lacked any kind of interesting characteristics and was just there as a plot device. So really, those were the major issues I had with this movie. And again, I don't dislike this movie. I think this movie was good. I think it had some good elements in it. I thought Anna's character was actually a lot of fun. I thought the animation was really well done. But overall as a movie, I just think it's okay. I just think that everybody's just way too overhyping this movie for what it is, and not looking at it through a critical lens. And to be honest, when I saw it, I just thought, oh, it was okay. Yeah. It was cute. It was cute. I mean, it's a cute movie. It has all those cute little Disney elements in there, you know, the cute little snowman that wants to be in summer. You know, you got the reindeer, who was actually another complete waste of animation. Like, he barely talks, he barely does anything in that movie. At least the horse in Tangled did some stuff. Like, that reindeer was completely pointless. And even Kristoff, I mean, even though he was a likable character, I still feel like he could have been fleshed out a little bit more. And the whole relationship between Anna and Kristoff, I don't feel makes sense. And again, the one between her and the prince doesn't make any sense either. But again, all the relationships in this movie, I don't think are executed all that well. And I think that was really the biggest issue that I had, because that was really what the movie was hyping it up for. And when it happened, and when ultimately Anna sacrificed herself for her sister, I didn't really feel it. I didn't feel like they shared anything. I don't feel like that they went through something together. I mean, yes, they do show tragedy happening within their lives, but do they show them actually, you know, trying to overcome certain things and trying to have a relationship as sisters? And the thing is this movie didn't show me that, so I couldn't get invested. I couldn't get into the film as much as it wanted me to. So those, I think, ultimately, though, are my criticisms of this movie. And I think it's just way too overhyped for what it is. But if you like Frozen and think it's the greatest Disney film that was ever made, congratulations, that's your opinion. You're more than welcome to have that opinion, but to be honest, I feel like that there were just some elements in there that just did not need to be in there and didn't really hold a candle to anything. And I think that there were just problems with the way that they developed the characters that needed to be there. So, ultimately, though, I think that's really all I can say about this film. I'm so sorry that this had to be uploaded a day later. Hopefully, YouTube doesn't give me any issues anymore. But I will do the random talk after this video. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. But until next time, everybody.